To feed an expected increase in world population, more food needs to be produced in the next 50 years than we've produced throughout human history. Yet we're running out of land and water, and farmers are plagued with new challenges. In this episode of Food for Thought, in cooperation with the United Nations International Fund for Agricultural Development, we take you on a journey across 3 continents in search of new approaches that are yielding results now. From making good use of migrant money in the Philippines and revitalizing wasteland in Brazil, to spinning new business opportunities from old traditions in Guatemala. But first, we go to Kenya. How are trees, water flow, and food connected? Ask the kids at Kambaru Primary School. It may not look like it, but 12-year-old Morris Kaboro is improving Kenya's water supply. He's teaching his grandfather how to care for trees.
I
have told my grandfather that planting of trees is important. It helps by giving shade, but it also gives shade to our crops. So when it rains, the trees will conserve moisture.
What Kaboro knows about trees and water, he's learned at school from his teachers and from hands-on experience. Students at Kambaru Primary School have planted more than 4,000 trees. Their efforts are part of a larger greening program that has already rehabilitated 2,600 hectares of forest and increased water flow from one of the country's most important water sources, Mount Kenya. Faith Livingston is manager of the Mount Kenya East Pilot Project for Natural Resources Management.
In Kenya, we have the 5 water towers, and Mount Kenya is one of the most significant in this country. And the government is very keen in conserving this water tower for the growth of the economy and employment creation and food security.
An hour from Kambaru Primary School, the Mount Kenya Forest Reserve. Here it becomes obvious why this mountain is referred to as a water tower. As fog blows over the forest, trees absorb moisture and then later release it back into the air, contributing to the rain cycle and ensuring the flow of clean water further downstream. Yet for the past 4 decades, excessive logging has reduced forest cover by 5,000 hectares, slowing water flow, eroding soil, and increasing poverty, particularly for the 80% of the population here that relies on farming.
Soil fertility is very, very important. And when there is soil erosion, continuous soil erosion, it depletes the soil, it becomes less fertile, less productive, and when it's less productive, the food security is threatened, and therefore the farmer becomes poor. The poorer they are, the more they deplete the resources. They go on cutting the trees within these rural settings, and it becomes a vicious cycle.
Putting a stop to the cycle has required a multi-pronged approach, including encouraging a broader cultural change that project organizers say begins with children, like Kaboro. As part of the school greening program, Kaboro is encouraged to share what he's learned with family at home. In his case, his grandparents.
Kaboro has taught me how to plant trees and how to plant them in the right places, and also pruning and cleaning.
Adriano used to fell trees for firewood, but now, thanks to Kaboro's influence, he selectively prunes his trees, and the family uses the cuttings for cooking and heating. His efforts seem to be paying off.
Within the short time that we've been planting trees, it seems there is more water. As more people take part, we are seeing some changes in the streams which were drying up very fast. This time, the water flows for a longer time than before.
With support from the UN's International Fund for Agricultural Development, it's estimated more than 7 million seedlings have been planted in water catchment areas along the eastern slopes of Mount Kenya since the pilot project began in 2005. And thanks to the efforts of students like Kaboro, the Kenyan government has announced plans for a national school greening program encouraging children across the country to plant more trees. On the other side of the world, to one of the harshest environments in South America, farmers are also learning they need to care for the land in order to survive.
Water, the essential ingredient for life. But here in the northeast of Brazil, water shortages are a chronic problem. With 22 million people, it's the most densely populated semi-arid region in the world. And it has the highest concentration of rural poverty in all of Latin America. Low erratic rainfall and cyclic droughts have made farming difficult. For generations, farmers have resorted to excessive use of chemicals and slash-and-burn agriculture. The result is soil depleted of nutrients, eroded land, and a damaged ecosystem. Until a few years ago, Irapuan Gomez was one of those farmers. He cleared the land through burning and used chemical fertilizers. Gradually, the soil became less productive until it reached a crisis point.
We got together in the community. We were all concerned about the health of our families. There was a lot of malnutrition and a lot of pollution, and we knew we couldn't survive here.
This small community turned to a local project for help. This project works with 15,000 families in the northeast region. Supported by IFAD, the UN agency dealing with rural poverty alleviation, it promotes agroecology, using no chemicals and no burning. With no natural water resources here, the project advisors suggested a whole new approach to farming. Irapuan agreed to try out bush management techniques to rehabilitate the natural ecosystem. He created ground cover, removed invasive species, and replanted native trees.
Here we're dealing with customs that go from father to son over generations. If you explain that they can produce without burning, just to preserve the environment, some will do it. But when you show in doing this that they can also make a profit, it becomes much easier.
And this community certainly profits. Trees now attract bees, resulting in a successful honey business. And the offcuts from the trees feed the goats. There used to be only 5 goats per family. Now there are 75. Instead of buying milk, the people here now sell the excess. From the initial 1-hectare trial area, this community is now managing 120 hectares.
If it wasn't for this work, I believe we wouldn't be surviving on the land now.
The project team has been monitoring the changes. It's up to 7 degrees cooler here since the project started, and birds and animals have returned.
We need the land, and the land needs us. For us to live well, we need to give the land its comfort.
And living with the land is the only way to ensure there will be enough food to feed the population of the future.
Now to the Philippines, where the issue is not about the flow of water, but the flow of money coming in from migrant workers, and how clever business investments could bring these workers back home.
The sun is rising over Lake San Polloc in the Philippines. And another busy day begins for Lily Brule. She has to start early to get everything done. With her husband working overseas, she's raising her 4 children on her own.
My husband decided to go abroad in the year 1998. He went to Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, and my husband told me to stop working and take good care of the children.
Lily's husband is one of an estimated 10 million Filipinos who have left the country to look for better job opportunities. Each year, these migrant workers send more than $20 billion back home. Their families who are left behind survive on these remittances. It's a flow of money that is vital for the economy, but very little of it is saved or invested. On top of that, millions of people, like Lily, decided to stop working once their family member got a job overseas, because in the Philippines they could earn very little themselves. So they now depend solely on this money from abroad. But on average, each migrant sends back just $200 a month, and for most families, this is not enough.
I have to pay the bills, I have to pay the everything. And then afterwards, I don't have enough money. So I was thinking, this is the only money I have. How can I stretch this? I have 4 children and I'm doing nothing.
So Lily decided to do something. She discovered a financial literacy training program aimed at helping families of migrant workers. Supported by the UN's International Fund for Agricultural Development, this training teaches people about budgeting and how to better invest the money they receive from abroad. For Lily, this knowledge was life-changing.
First thing I was able to put it in my mind is, if you receive your remittance from your husband, save first before you spend. It also makes me realize that I have to be ready for the reintegration of my husband. Because if I am not going to prepare, and who will prepare for us?
Lily realized that for her husband to come home and not leave again, she would have to find a way for them to earn enough money in the Philippines. With the skills she got from the training, she set out in search of investment opportunities. And one day, she found what she was looking for. With money saved from her husband's remittances, Lily decided to invest in a fish farm. With an initial capital of 5,000 pesos, which is just $120, she bought 2 fish cages. And what happened after the first harvest was a huge surprise.
The money that my husband sends me is 22,000, and I gained 30,000 from the fish cages. I told myself, oh, it's a lot of money. Maybe someday I can tell my husband, you can come home.
Less than a year later, Lily has 23 cages and is running a successful business. She's also providing jobs to others in the community. There are thousands of people like Lily who have attended this training and are using their remittances to build a more sustainable economy. And as Lily's business grows, so does her hope that it won't be long before her family is reunited.
In Guatemala, another entrepreneurial woman is not only earning more money, but preserving ancient traditions as she spins opportunities into a thriving business. In a remote village in the Alta Vera Pass region of Guatemala, Marie Ana Gonzalez weaves as her Mayan ancestors have done for generations. The cloth she creates employs traditional colors, but with a modern touch. Her textiles are bound for specialty houseware shops in the United States, markets that most poor weavers here can only dream of.
Maria Ana is a national success story. Her vision and her experience are what helped her to attract buyers.
Few may possess Maria Ana's talents, but Guatemala's poorest rural regions are filled with weavers, nearly 1 million of them, and most are women. When they're not farming, they produce textiles to sell in local markets. They earn little for their efforts, according to the International Fund for Agricultural Development, or IFAD, whose projects assist poor farmers in the region.
We saw there was potential to strengthen these groups of weavers and to improve the production of textiles. But to improve means innovate, and to innovate means to introduce new designs.
That's where Gabby Gomez comes in. She's an industrial designer working for Ag Export, a private institution that's been helping local weavers like Mariana make their designs more appealing to foreign tastes. With support from IFAD, weavers were also given technical training and loans to upgrade looms. So far, the creative collaboration has been paying off. Mariana and her group of 11 weavers have created their own line of fabrics and their own label.
This is one of our designs. People like it a lot. It has 20 colors. It sells well here and also abroad.
Creating a new fabric starts with arranging threads according to the color pattern. Later, Mariana discusses the client's order with the other weavers. Each works independently at home, but when all their production comes together, it must pass a rigorous quality control inspection before it's packed and ready for transport. After a long journey to Guatemala City, Mariana delivers the group's latest order to the exporter Mayan Hands, which sells the fabrics in the United States. Negotiating the final price is crucial. Before Maria Ana learned to calculate the cost of materials and labor, she was losing money. Now members of her group earn about 90% more than they had when selling in local markets. But her passion for weaving is about more than money. Mariana wants to preserve weaving traditions and to create opportunities for future generations.